All right. I am so sorry. My phone doesn't seem to want to play in landscape, even though I started it in landscape. We're going to have to do it in vertical and portrait mode for now. Anyway, welcome to the Tie with Tom, as Phil and Julie are calling it. Should become a regular feature while we're all housebound for a while. And we thought we'd start with a Zebra Midge today. It's a very simple fly, very effective fly this time of year. I love the fly, and it's more of the Zebra Midge, I think of more of as a woolly bugger type thing. It's more of a style of fly. You know, the official pattern calls for a black thread body, silver wire rib, silver bead at the head, and some kind of curved hook. But I tie it in all different colors, which I'll show you. But before we get into tying the Zebra Midge, for those of you who don't do a lot of tying, I get the question a lot, what do I need to start tying flies? Because a lot of people are probably going to want to start tying flies in these times. It's a great indoor activity, and it's wonderfully therapeutic. I know it's therapeutic for me. So let's just talk about what you need. Well, the first thing you need something to hold your hook, and that's called a vise. And this is my vise. It's a Renzetti, I think, presentation model. I don't think they make exactly this model. I've had this vise for 30, 35, 40 years. As long as Renzetti's been in business, I think I've had this vise. Never had a problem with it. I like the Renzetti vise, and I also like the Regal vices. Those are the two I know the best. You can buy much cheaper vices than this, but this is going to be a lifetime investment. If you're going to be interested in tying flies, then you probably want to go with a good vise. It's the most important piece of gear you have. Now, you can put a hook in a pair of vice grips, and you can tie without a bobbin and all those fancy things if you really want. But if you're going to get started in fly tying, a vise is great, and don't scrimp on the vise, because a cheap vise is going to be frustrating. So you need a vise that holds the hook. What else do you absolutely need? Well, you absolutely need to have scissors. And I'm a scissor geek. If you could see off to the side there, you'd see probably 10 pairs of scissors. You need a good pair of scissors. And you can get away with one pair of scissors, particularly if you're only tying larger flies. I usually have two in my tying area. I have a slightly bigger ones, and then I have really fine ones for snipping really, really small stuff. Again, don't scrimp on your scissors. There's nothing more frustrating than a pair of scissors that doesn't cut properly. And you're going to be cutting some little tiny fine things. So you need a good pair of scissors. The best ones are made in Italy and Germany. These are German. I don't know where these are made. These might be made in Pakistan, but they're not bad. But the really, really good ones, I think, are made in Germany and Italy. So you need a pair of scissors. Got to have a good pair of scissors. And then you need a bobbin. You need something to hold your thread. It's going to make things a lot easier. You could just tie with your fingers, but you really need a bobbin. And there are various bobbins, various types of bobbins, but it's just something that keeps some tension on your thread and allows the thread to peel off, and you can back it up or move it this way, but you got to have a bobbin. Those are the real essentials. Everything else you can get later, but you need those three things to start. Some things that are nice to have are stackers. You don't need as many as I do. Again, I'm a tool geek, so I've got all kinds of different stackers, different sizes, and I'm always, when I see a new one at a fly fishing show, I'll always pick up another stacker. They're used for evening out the ends of hair. So if you tie a lot of hair flies, a stacker is essential. And then if you do a lot of dubbing, a dubbing spinner of some sort or some kind of hook. You can have these types of spinners for spinning a dubbing loop. You can also use this shepherd's crook type, or you can just dub on with your fingers. You don't need a dubbing spinner, but if you spin in a loop, spin dubbing in a loop, you're going to need some kind of dubbing spinner. And then other things that you might want to have, a dog comb for combing out synthetic fibers. I use that a lot. Some type of deal to fuzz up dubbing. This one is like a Velcro loop type thing. You can make your own.
Question, no automatic bobbin yet. I switched to a gas years ago and loved them.
No automatic bobbin yet. Yeah, I've got an automatic bobbin. I didn't show it to you. I have lots of bobbins. You can make a dubbing scratcher with a popsicle stick and piece of Velcro on the end if you want. What else? Oh, a pair of small wire snips for cutting some of the heavier materials. You don't want to use your scissors on things like wire. So I use these. There's another way of breaking wire called helicoptering that Tim Flagler uses all the time. I can't do it very well. I don't do it. I cut it, and you'll see when we tie the zebra midge. And then a bobbin threader. This threads the thread up inside your bobbin tube. You can also go to the drugstore and buy a floss threader if you want. Those work well. And a pair of forceps, a pair of good fine forceps are handy for grabbing beads and small hooks, and also for plucking fibers. So that's kind of the basic tools that you need. You can get all those tools in a kit. If you do get a fly tying kit, first thing you're probably going to want to do if you decide you like this is to replace the vise. When you buy a kit, you're not going to get a super duper quality vise because people don't want to spend more than $150, $200 on their first fly tying kit. So the vise that's in there is pretty basic, and they're not the greatest, but they work. They're fine. All right. So do we have any questions? My assistant Robin is reading questions to me. Say hi, Robin. Say hi, Robin.
Hi, everyone. Everyone likes your shirt. Aaron Camp. And
you know where to get these, right? Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, a great organization out of Missoula, Montana. All right. Any other questions so far? No? No questions?
Various types of glue review.
Various types of glue review.
Cement, super resin.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that one in let's do the glue review in a future one. Because I want to get to tying today. Okay, so we'll talk about glues and stuff like that a little bit later.
What's a bobbin?
What's a bobbin? A bobbin is the thing that holds your thread. This is a bobbin, and it just keeps tension on your thread and allows you to. It also has a tube that allows you to control stuff to get into tight places. Your fingers are kind of big and clumsy, and you can use that tube to work your thread into more difficult angles. So that's what a bobbin's for. Just a simple spring-loaded, finely machined so that it doesn't cut your thread, but just a simple spring-loaded deal. There's all different kinds of bobbins. This is kind of the basic and the most common type of bobbin. Any other questions before we start?
Best advice and tricks to tie faster.
Best advice and tricks to tie faster. Practice. No shortcuts. And have all your materials laid out in front of you. Okay.
Did you whip finishing tool?
Oh yeah, whip finishing tool. Not essential for everyone, but I use one all the time. You can whip finish with your hand, or you can whip finish with a tool. The tool I just find is much faster and I think tighter than doing it by hand. But lots of people whip finish by hand, and there's lots of videos online showing you how to whip finish by hand. We can go into that maybe at some point, but it's not that difficult. So yeah, whip finish tool is one I should have mentioned. Thank you for who said that. Who asked about
You know, I can't go that fast. I
Oh.
think it's off my screen. Now I know they're all going crazy.
Yeah, they're all going crazy. Okay.
Someone was asking about like what everything's like with people on the rivers, with people not going out and such. With the virus. So.
I don't know what everything's like. I haven't been out. I haven't been out yet, so I don't know. And fishing season is not open in Vermont, but I have seen there's some guides out fishing, and they're keeping hand sanitizer in the boat, and they're staying 6 feet away from their clients, and they're asking their clients to bring their own lunch, and they're disinfecting their boats and all their gear in between trips. So people are fishing. That's all I know.
So someone said, let's see the materials, Tom.
All right, yeah, let's see the materials. Well, this is pretty basic, guys. We're going to have a hook, and you would probably want to tie these in 18, 20, 22, maybe 16s. I'm going to tie this on a 14 because so you can see it better, because Zebra Midge is a pretty small fly. And then you need some beads. These are silver beads. Put in any color you want. And you need some thread. And one more thing. You need a spool of silver wire. So everybody got this stuff? Y'all ready? Everybody got this stuff ready? Silver wire, gold wire, copper wire, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, but we're going to tie the classic Zebra Midge here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reposition the camera so I can get closer to the vise and maybe change the lights a little bit. So hang on while I move the camera in. Hopefully we can get this set up with a big boy camera at some point. I don't know how to connect my good camera to Facebook Live, but I'm going to work on figuring out how to do it so that I could maybe have a macro lens as we're tying. But the iPhone camera isn't bad when they rotate properly. So I'm going to there's going to be a little bumping and jumbling, so just hang in there and don't get seasick while I move the camera. Any questions while I'm doing this?
Let's see. Sorry, I lost my place. Is there a better bobbin for 08 thread? Mine tends to break the line.
If your bobbin is breaking the thread, it's probably got a burr in it, and it probably, the best thing to do is replace it. A good bobbin should not break the thread. If your thread's breaking a lot, there's two things it could be. One is that it could be you have some bad thread. Thread does go bad after a while, and you could also have a burr in your bobbin. So check your thread. Just kind of break it with your hand, and see how that works. How's that look behind there? Oh, wrong way. How about that? Is that better? Let's sneak this right in here. All right. How's that? How's that looking?
Looks good.
Okay.
What's the oddest material you've read? I mean, you have used.
What's the oddest material I've used? People ask me that. Once I killed when I was a kid, I killed a field mouse in a mouse trap and skinned it and used it for dubbing. That's probably the oddest material. There's probably odder materials, actually. How's that lighting look? Everybody happy with that? What is the oddest material? Oh, I can read these here. This is cool. Thanks. Well, you're welcome. Okay. So here's the hook. And some of this may be difficult to show you, but what I'm doing now is getting a bead out of the package. And if you rotate the bead around in your fingers, you'll see that there is a narrow side and a wide side. And you want to put the hook point through the narrow side so that it goes up against the eye, okay? So I am going to, and this is a fairly large bead for this hook, but I'm going to go off camera here and because I have to look closely at this bead. And I'm putting the bead through the narrow side. And then just slide the bead up to the eye of the hook. Everybody see that? That's all. And if your bead slides over the eye of the hook, your bead's too big. And you can use different size beads. I'll show you a couple things here. So here are a couple zebra midges. So this one is tied with a fairly robust bead. And then the same hook, same everything, but this one is tied with a smaller bead. So it depends on the sink rate you want and what you want the fly to look like. So I think this smaller version looks a little neater, but there's some times when you want the thing to sink faster, so you might want to go with one with just about as big a bead as you can put on the hook. Okay? Any other questions at this point?
Nope, everyone likes it though.
All right. Yeah, you can just read the questions off as they come up. I can actually see them here. Okay. So I got the bead on the hook. I'm going to adjust this a little bit here.
Oh, is that styrofoam mounted in the shaft of your vise?
Yeah, this styrofoam thing is it's an old product that Orvis used to sell, and it just holds flies, and I stick hooks on it and stuff like that. Yeah, it's kind of nice. All right, so
do you dub behind the bead?
I don't dub behind the bead.
And how important is the bead color?
The bead, I don't think the bead color is that important at all. If you look down here, if you look down here, you can see that I got a rainbow bead and a black bead there and silver beads, and I like white beads. So, I would experiment with them, all different kinds of colors. And you can use either brass or you can use, I'm going to try to get this a little closer. You can use brass or you can use tungsten. How's that? A little better there? Get a little more light on there. All right.
What was the first fly you tied?
The first fly I tied was a Royal Coachman wet. And the fly tying kit that I got, this is back in the 60s, late 60s. The fly tying kit that I got, it started you out with the Royal Coachman wet. I don't think there is a harder fly to tie than the Royal Coachman wet, and it was a disaster. Of course, there weren't any, woolly bugger wasn't around then. There weren't any woolly buggers around, so didn't have them. But, they could have started me out with a woolly worm or something, but no, they started me out with a Royal Coachman wet. All right,
Can
so
you put lead wire down as a base for more weight on this fly?
yes, you could. You could put some fine. Although it's hard to get that. It's hard to get that non-toxic wire in a size fine enough to put on a Zebra Midge, because you're talking about an 18 or a 20 short-shank hook. So it's tough to get lead wire, but you could take a couple turns, sure. Yeah. If you wanted to get more weight. But this thing, when you get done with it, presents very little resistance to the water. And it's going to sink on its own pretty darn quickly, especially with that tungsten bead up on the head. All right, so I am using 140 denier or about 3/0 thread because I'm tying a bigger version so you guys can see it. But you probably want to use 6/0. You know, you don't want too fine of a thread, even though this is a small fly, because you need to build up the body a little bit. And if you're using really fine thread, it'll take forever. So I'm going to start my thread right behind the bead. I'm just going to cross it over. Cut that off. And now everybody tying with me now? And then you're just going to build up a little thread behind the bead just to start a little taper there. I hope everybody's tying along. I'm going to come to your house and check. Everybody tying with me now? You ready? Okay, so we're going to you should wind all the way back to the bend, just to where it starts to keel over on the bend, to give yourself a base to put that wire, and then go back to the front like so. I'm going to get this thing out of the way. And then you're going to take your piece of gold wire or whatever color you feel like and whatever diameter you feel like that looks good. Again, this is not something that you should be slavish about. Mark Malnick, make it as difficult as you want.
When does your season actually open in Vermont?
Second Saturday in April is when our trout season opens, although we have some special rivers that are open all year long that are stocked. So I've got my wire right behind the bead. I hope you can see it there. And I'm just going to let the thread roll it right over to the top of the shank. And then I'm just going to wind. I like to keep it on top of the hook shank. Just makes it look a little nicer when you finish up. I'm going to go back to where that thread ended. So I got the wire hanging off here, got my thread here, and then if you want, you can spin your bobbin a little bit in a counterclockwise direction to flatten your thread a little bit, make it a little smoother, because this thread has a little twist in it. So if you spin it counterclockwise, you'll get that flattened thread. And then just going to go up to the head.
Is this a size 14?
This is a size 14, yeah. And you're going to kind of go back and forth, but you're not going to go all the way back. So you're just kind of building up a little taper on there. I'm not a big thread spinner, but I'm trying to show you what a lot of people do. And the smoothness of the body really doesn't matter at all, because you're going to put some glue or something on this anyways. All right, so got a nice taper there. Everybody with me? Anybody falling behind?
Not that I can see. I
Nope.
have a question. I know we are tying a Zebra Midge. However, what's your favorite streamer to tie?
What's my favorite streamer to tie? Oh, what's my favorite streamer to tie? I don't know. Well, one of my favorites is a woolly bugger because it's so easy to tie. What's a satisfying fly to tie? I don't know. Kinky muddler's kind of fun to tie. Kinky muddler or a marabou muddler with a cone head.
Is it possible to tie without the bead if you don't have any?
It is possible to tie without the bead. Absolutely. You could just make a big head. Make a big head out of thread. Yep, you could. Or you could make a big head and you could hit it with a silver Sharpie, and then or buy some of that nail polish that has little sparkles in it and put it on. I've got some of that too.
What's the smallest zebra you ever tied and the biggest trout you caught on a zebra?
The smallest zebra I have ever tied was a 24. I don't think I've gone to 26. And I don't know what the biggest trout is. I've caught trout that are, 18, probably maybe 20 inches on zebra midges. Any other questions before I...
Another one about the size 14.
Mm-hmm.
Do you fish this pattern in all different sizes?
I fish this fly mainly in sizes 18 through 22. And the only reason I'm tying on a 14 is because if I tied a 22, you wouldn't be able to see much. So I'm tying a bigger one so you can see it.
Okay, you need to say hello to Joyce from Indiana.
Hi, Joyce. Hi, Joyce from Indiana.
And somebody wants to see the trout stream behind our house.
No, sorry.
It's pretty awful.
Yeah, it's not very good this time of year. All right, so we got that wire hanging there. And so all we're going to do is take this wire and spiral it over the body. And you need to do exactly 5 turns. If you don't do 5 turns, you will not catch any fish. It has to be 5 turns. The fish know the difference. I've only got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, actually got 5. Just spiral it. And then you're going to take a few turns of thread over that wire. And then, so here's the deal. Tim Flagler does what he calls a helicopter, and he just keeps going like this until the wire breaks. But I just don't know if that's secure. I don't trust it. But Tim Flagler's a better tyer than I am. But I'm a cutter, so I'm going to get my wire cutters and cut it.
If you had a hot spot in front or behind the bead.
Ooh, that'd be good. Yeah, I'd try a hot spot. Why not? Try a hot spot. Maybe a couple turns of orange thread there. Yeah, that'd be cool.
In front or behind, though?
Well, I wouldn't want to put it in front of the bead. Okay. And then once you cut that wire, just kind of push it over with your thumbnail to cover it, and then take a couple more turns. We're gonna cover this whole fly with some kind of cement, so it really doesn't matter. Things don't have to be that secure. And then I'm gonna whip finish this fly.
Have you had any luck fishing spider patterns? If so, how big?
Wet spiders or dry spiders?
Doesn't say.
Well, I've fished wet spiders and I've fished dry spiders. And yeah, I've caught fish on both of them. I don't do it an awful lot. Dry spiders, the big never sink skaters, are a lot of fun to fish, but they are, fish are notoriously short strikers on those, but they're pretty exciting strikes. Hey, you know what? Let's put a hot spot on this. Let's do it. Just for grins. So I'm going to take my orange thread, and I'm just going to start my orange thread here. That was a good idea, putting a hot spot on there. And I just started my orange thread there. And then I'm just going to whip finish. Now we've got a hot spot. That was a good idea.
Can you do the whip finish slower?
No, but I will in a minute. I'll do the whip finish slower in a minute. Okay, that's it for the Zebra Midge. It is such an easy fly to tie, and it's so deadly. And like I showed you, you can do all kinds of color variations. And then you don't have to do this, but most people do. I'm going to put a little UV resin on there. Just cover that whole thing. This is the nice thing about a more expensive vise that has rotary features, that you can see it from all sides. Now what this is going to do is it's going to make this fly nearly indestructible. That bead is never going to move, and you know, you're going to lose this long before it'll never fall apart. You're going to lose it long before it would ever think of falling apart, because it's a nymph, and you're going to lose lots of them, right? And then I got my UV light here, and I'm just going to rotate slowly while that epoxy cures. Go around again, just to make sure.
Do you have a favorite color of hotspots?
I don't have a favorite color of hotspots. I experiment with different ones. I don't have a favorite color. And there's your Zebra Midge. You know, and get a little closer.
Any chance Tom could show how to add a CDC loop wing to the thread body?
I'm not going to show you how to do a CDC loop wing right now, because I'd have to practice it before I did it online. But, so anyway, that is the Zebra Midge. Now, somebody wanted to see a whip finish done slower, so I'll do that.
Question, ever tie a zebra as a parasol style fly to suspend its subsurface?
I have never tied a zebra as a parasol style fly. I'm going to put a bigger hook in here so you can see this whip finish a little bit better. And then, will that red thread show up better or the black thread? Yeah, probably the black thread. So I'm just going to start this thread on there. Okay. There, by the way, if you want to learn how to do the whip finish, there are lots and lots of videos online show you how to use a whip finish tool. But I'll show you here. So here's your whip finish tool, right? You first put the big loop at the bottom, or the big notch, down on top of the thread. And you hold this thing so it doesn't rotate. So I'm holding this steady. I put this down on there, and then I catch the thread in the loop from the other side so that I've got it lined up like this, and then I bring my bobbin up here, and now I let go and let that thing flip. And what that thing's going to do is going to flip. Now it's rotating, and you see that triangle that's formed there? The base of that triangle right here is going to be where your knot is. So you just work that apex down onto there, and then you just rotate the tool around there. All I'm doing is whipping this under. And then to get out of there, you bring the tool toward you a little bit. You push it down so that it slips off of the top loop, like so. And then you just use that hook to pull it tight, and you pull it out. Well, that's a whip finish. Okay. So we tied a Zebra Midge. And here's some other variations of Zebra Midge. Here's a red one with a black head. I like that one. I use this one a lot. I think that's a good midge larva imitation. And then here's a crazy one, which actually is also pretty effective. It's a white body with a copper rib. Now, typically, this has a black head, but I used one of those rainbow beads on there. But this is, you may have heard this called a miracle nymph. It's basically a white thread body ribbed with copper wire and a black head. Miracle nymph, but you know, it's a zebra midge variation, really. And what else? And then the standard that we just tied with all silver and black, which is probably the most popular. And then I also tie a lot of them. I don't always like my flies to be flashy, and I tie a lot of my zebra midges with a black tungsten bead instead of silver. So a little more subtle, just a little flash in the body. Now you could use a little strand of crystal flash for that rib. You could use a piece of quill or synthetic quill. You could do all kinds of zebra midge types. Questions? More questions?
Are we doing one of Kelly Gallup's triple articulated, scattered, smothered, and covered streamer patterns next session?
We are not.
We have to go easier, right?
We are not. I don't even know what that pattern is.
Have you tied these with boots?
With what?
Boots.
Boots? BOOTS?
Yeah.
I don't know what boots are.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Boots. I don't know what boots are. Oh, maybe he means biots.
Oh, I don't know.
If you meant biots, yeah, I have. Or synthetic quill works good too.
Are in-store classes suspended for during this time, or is it still happening?
Yes, in store. The stores, most of the Orvis stores are closed. If not all of them are closed.
Ever use a primrose and pearl midge?
Nope, I've never used a primrose and pearl midge.
All right, I think that's all I see now. Well, we have lots of questions about your great shirt.
Okay.
Dave Footy wants to work for you.
Who does? Who does?
Dave Footy.
Dave, I don't have a staff, so you can't work for me.
And you have to be married to Tom to get this job.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to come and read the questions? All right. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope some of you did tie along. We'll work on some of these technical difficulties and do some more tying next week. So thanks all of you for tuning in and listening, and stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll be tying again soon. Thanks.